Hey guys, I'm Shanna. In this video, I'm going to talk about choosing the right plants to grow in your rice garden. I'm going to tell you about what I've chosen to grow in mine and why. And then I'm going to talk about some specifics of choosing varieties for tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers that will do well in the rice garden. There are two main pieces of advice that I can give you for choosing what to grow in your garden. The first, which sounds really obvious, is to think about what you like to eat. It can get really exciting to look at all the exotic varieties of things that are available to grow, but at the end of the day, you're spending time and money growing them, and if your goal is to produce food, then you want to grow things that you know you're actually going to eat. The second piece of advice that I would give is to set yourself up for success by making sure that you choose varieties of plants that are going to grow well indoors, hydroponically, and in a smaller space, which is what we have available in the rice garden. So you want to look, for example, for your larger plants like tomatoes and peppers, you're going to want to look for words like compact, dwarf, perfect for container growing, perfect for indoor growing. Things like that will help you choose the right varieties that will do very well in your garden. I'm going to show you what I've chosen to grow in my garden and explain a little bit about why, and then I'll go into some more detail about choosing varieties of tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers that might work for you. My priority for my rice garden was to grow ingredients for salads. So I prioritized lettuce, cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers, and then I decided to plant other things in the remaining space. So in my case, I've also chosen to plant a bit of pak choi and some herbs. I've decided to use the Rise 30 Heads of Lettuce per Month plan, and I've dedicated the majority of my top 2 levels to doing this. So you need 5 tray slots in order to do this, and you get basically 1 head of lettuce per day, which is fantastic for making salads. I've made a separate video about how to do this system in detail. I've put a link at the top of the video here if you want to check that out, or there'll be a link at the end of the video as well. In my leftover space, I have 1 more tray on my top level on the very right. I've planted some baby pak choi. I've got 4 plants in there, and I've rotated them so they're all different ages. So I have a continuous supply of pak choi as well. On the bottom level of my garden, I've again prioritized salad ingredients. I've got 2 tomato plants, 1 pepper plant, and 1 cucumber plant. And then I've grown some additional herbs in between those main big plants. So let's look a little more closely at the tomatoes, pepper, and cucumber plants, and I'll give you some ideas about choosing varieties that will work well in your garden. So I've got 2 varieties of tomatoes here. In the back on the left, I've got a variety called Tiny Tim, and then on the right hand side over here, I've got a variety called Red Robin. The Tiny Tim, the big one in the back on the left, is too big for this garden still, even with a description of being compact, and also, you know, the word tiny is in the name, but I've done a lot of hard pruning on this already, and it's actually flopped over and growing sideways behind all these other plants because it's too tall. You can see also that I really need to get some Rise tomato supports. I tried 3D printing these plastic things, and they are not strong enough to hold the plant, and I've got, you see my additional reinforcements there. So if you plan to grow tomatoes, make sure you get the Rise metal supports that will adequately hold your plants up. The Red Robin here I'm quite happy with. It's actually at the tallest 11 inches tall, which is about the height of the 2nd and 3rd levels of the garden. So I believe I can actually grow this one on the smaller levels of the garden. And the tomatoes are a nice size. It grows really well. The only thing about this variety that I'd mention is that it is very, very dense. So I would start with the pruning fairly early in its life and make sure to keep that up, because once it grows a lot of thick branches, it's really difficult to see what's where and to get in there and do pruning. So definitely continuous pruning as it grows would be very helpful. In the middle here, I've got a variety of pepper called Red Candy Cane. This plant is a very good size for the rice garden. I have not done much pruning at all on this. I've pruned the sides a little bit to allow light to some of my other plants, but I haven't trimmed the top at all, and it's still several inches below the lights. And also it hasn't needed any support. these peppers on this plant, even though none of them are actually red yet, they are perfectly good to eat while they're green as well, so that's nice. In the back behind my red candy cane here is my cucumber. It's a patio snacker. One thing that's important when you're choosing a cucumber is I recommend you pick one that's parthenocarpic, and what that means is that it doesn't need to be pollinated. So this will save you mental damage on two fronts. Number one is you don't have to spend the time pollinating it, and number two, which is even more helpful, is that you don't have to wait for male and female flowers to be ready at the same time in order for it to be pollinated. Sometimes that can be a big issue. You'll get all female flowers or all male flowers, and if it's not parthenocarpic, then you can't pollinate anything until you have both at the same time. Cucumbers also need a trellis or something to climb up. I have ordered the trellis from Rias at the same time when I ordered my tomato stands, so that is on the way, but make sure whether you use the Rias trellis or you're going to devise something of your own, make sure that you have a plan because it's definitely going to need some support. If you thought this video was helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. And you should now see a link to the lettuce rotation video if you want to check that one out.